Shalom, Yahweh Hashem Yahshua, break a thumb to the brothers. Yahweh Shema Allah thumb by Hashem Yahshua to the sisters. I am the mountain of the Most High, priest and officer Harya Allah, once again live from ISUPK headquarters, right here in Harlem, New York. Monday night history class. Clap it up. We're in the building. You know how we do every single Monday night, right here in ISUPK headquarters. History class. Ooh wee, how we love history class. It goes down here every Monday night, right here in ISUPK headquarters, where we get into the history in order to have a better understanding of how we got into our condition today. Now, last week, we started part 1 of our white collar crime series. And just a quick recap, we were able to take a closer look at white collar crime and take a closer look at the fact that our oppressor looks at the fact that we commit petty crimes as the worst goddamn thing that could ever happen. Petty crimes like larceny, drug dealing, gangbanging. These are unlawful acts that blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians should never get involved in. We know that as well as our oppressor. And that's why anytime there's any crime committed from a black Hispanic, they prosecute us to the 3rd degree. They make sure we get every goddamn day of time for a crime that we commit. We see consistently that that's not the same for white collar crime. And we know from last week's lesson that white collar crime is 100 times more dangerous than petty crime. Why is that? Because white collar crime is literally the canvas in which all petty crimes come about. Because white collar crime is what creates widespread poverty. Right. And it is from the conditions of widespread poverty that our people are pushed into desperate circumstances, which eventually leads to the wrong choices and down the road to commit petty crime. I mean, goddamn, all you gotta do is watch one episode of First 48. Right. We go to jail for 25 to life for goddamn $10. We're not talking about Lex Luthor Criminal Minds here. We're talking about brothers who are trying to survive. Brothers who are trying to get themselves out of poverty. White collar crime is the crime that causes the conditions we see here in America. White collar crime is the reason why the majority of the world's wealth has been combined into the hands of very few. We must take time out to charge our oppressors with the crimes that leave us in poverty. And these crimes are white collar crimes. Last week we was able to go over usury or predatory lending. And we were able to see how through the trickery of the financial institutions and banking and taxes and all of these different schemes that our oppressors are able to come up with, they've been able to use that to culminate the world's wealth and leave everybody else broke. We were also able to pull a Deuteronomy that it doesn't matter how many people are broke, blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians will always be the brokest. We're able to show in Deuteronomy 28 that we're the goddamn tab. This act of predatory lending always falls on the lap of God's chosen people. And we were able to bring that out last week. Slakia, let me hit Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 7. This is part 2 of our white collar crime series. And this class is entitled Identity Theft, which is another significant crime that's committed in the black community. But we're not just talking about any identity theft. What you're going to learn tonight is that the identity theft we're talking about is an identity theft so great, so evasive, so substantial, that all of the other fallacies of blacks and Hispanics here in America arise from this very act of identity theft. Read what you got, brother.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 7. The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee.
Let me get 32 and 7, Baba Kashab. 32 and 7. When we come here to headquarters on Monday night, we come here to relive the trauma of our stay here in this disgusting captivity. We're told time and time again from our oppressors to forget about the horrors that has happened to us, to forget about the terrorism that we've endured in this disgusting nation. Tell them what the Bible said.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old.
Say it again.
Remember the days of old.
Say it again.
Remember the days of old.
We will always remember the days of old. We will never forget our people that have fallen at the hands of our disgusting oppressor. We will never forget the Emmett Tills of the world, the Sandra Blands of the world, the Philando Castiles of the world. We will never forget the people who have fallen at the hands of our disgusting oppressor. Say it again.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old.
Because we are to remember the days of old. Keep going.
Consider the years of many generations.
We are to consider the years of many generations. How else would we have a clear understanding of our current condition? We must consider the years of many generations. We must go back and see what our ancestors had to endure, what our ancestors' mentality, what our ancestors' plans were at the time. How else will we make it back to our true identity? Keep going.
I, thy father,
coming to the ISUPK under Commander General Yahana. You out there listening to some goddamn swami with a goddamn turban on, coming to the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge and do what?
And he will show thee thy elders, and they will tell thee.
Damn right. Damn right. Give him a hand. Damn right. Damn right. Listen, man, we're going to jump right into it. It's very important that we understand exactly what white-collar crime is and exactly what identity theft is. If we don't have a clear understanding and a working definition of identity theft, then we're not going to be able to understand what it is. Here's the problem. Like we discussed last week with predatory lending, it is very difficult to pinpoint an exact definition of what this white-collar crime is. Why is that? Because most of the atrocities committed against blacks and Hispanics financially in this country are not even crimes. It's completely legal to take advantage of blacks and Hispanics financially here in America. Right. And so in order to pinpoint exactly what a white-collar crime is, we have to look beyond what's criminal. Because most of these things are not even goddamn crimes. Right. Black people, blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians should understand that lynching was not a crime. Most brothers and sisters that got lynched in the South got lynched righteously in the eyes of the government. This was a communal act. How can you trust the legal definition of murder in a country in which a few short years ago, your murder was legal? We can never trust the definitions of our oppressor to define the very instruments of oppression that he uses against us. But let's take a look at what we got here. Identity theft occurs when someone uses another person's personal identifying information. Their personal identifying information. Let's think about some of this personal identifying information. Let's say, your goddamn skin color. Like, isn't your skin color an important indicator of what your identity is? Like, every time I watch goddamn, First 48 or Cops or something like that, I hear them identify people by their skin color. They'll say there's a black male. A person's skin color is very important identifying information. Let's see what else we got here. Like their name. Their name's important. If somebody had one name and lived one life, and then suddenly they got a new name and they're living your life, that's identity theft. They stole your identity. Identify a number or credit card without their permission to commit fraud or other crimes. I think we got lucky on this one, because it just so happens that this form of white-collar crime, as applied to blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, is actually a crime. We're going to jump right into this, man. Let me get Jeremiah 14:2. The book of Jeremiah 14:2. Another part of identity theft that most people know is typically when identity theft is committed, 9 times out of 10, it was an inside job. For example, your little 21-year-old girlfriend who's a goddamn telemarketer, who's sending you every goddamn person she ever spoke to information from out of the goddamn company. That's an inside job. She worked for a company and had access to information and was able to funnel it out so you could do your whole goddamn credit card scam. That's what happens when you have inside information. And the large majority of identity theft cases has an inside man. It got to be a man on the inside helping out. Read what you got, brother.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 14 and verse 2.
Slack it, brother. You don't got to scream.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 14 and verse 2. Judah mourning.
Say it again.
Judah mourning.
Say it again.
Judah mourning.
Who's Judah? Judah are the men and women of the tribe of Judah of the nation of Israel. God's chosen people. The Negroes are the Judites. The real Jews. And the scripture said we're in mourning. Let's hear why. Keep going.
And the gates thereof language.
Say it again.
And the gates thereof language.
Say it again.
And the gates thereof language.
Our gates language. Why? Because we got weak security. Our leaders are responsible for the security of God's flock. But we got weak security. Our leaders are weak. And they've left our gates weak. And that's left an opening for identity theft. Keep going.
They are black.
Say it again.
They are black.
Say it again.
They are black.
The goddamn Jews are black. How can we not be? We're suffering from every goddamn form of white-collar crime. You damn right we black. We are black because in this society, we are put on the bottom and we suffer the most when it comes to disgusting crimes like identity theft. You got more on that?
Come. Onto the ground.
unto the goddamn ground. That's right. We are black unto the goddamn ground. Listen, man. What we're discussing here is the greatest identity theft the world has ever known. We're going to get into not only why is this identity theft so important, but also the effects that it's consistently had on our people. You know? Now, I'm pretty sure our audience today has a clear understanding of who I'm referring to when we speak about identity theft. I mean, he comes in many shapes and forms. He is none other than goddamn Caesar Borgia. Let's get him up on the screen. You know? This is not Jesus Christ. What we're looking at here is a man named Caesar Borgia. He's the second son of Pope Alexander II. He is a white man who was chosen to be painted as the face of our king for no other purpose than widespread identity theft. Let's take a look at it. He comes in all many different shapes or forms, you know? Like, for example, if you're an Ephraimite or a Simeonite, you may be used to this Caesar Borgia right here with the red heart. If you look right below him, that's the Judite Caesar Borgia. Every black family had that Caesar Borgia right there in their house. This one right here. You know? Then over the years, they got a little bit more graphic. You know what I'm saying? So now, you know, you got Caesar Borgias like this. You know, they try to... Yeah, the water. You know? So we see that these different Caesar Borgias have changed over time. They change with time, and they change to fit the specific people they're looking to trick. That's why you have the one over here for, you know, Ephraim and Simeon, and you have one over here that, you know, Benjamites and Judah specifically look at. These are the ones that we had on our wall. Let me get Revelation 1:13. What we find here is that none of these depictions are the depiction of what Christ resembles in the Bible. Here's the question. What else information do we have to go on as to the identity of Christ? What text? What hieroglyphic? You know, what piece of goddamn toast that some Catholic pedophile looked into that gave him the idea that there was a different depiction of Christ other than how he's depicted in the Bible? Read what you got.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 13. And in the midst of the seven candlesticks.
And in the midst of the seven candlesticks. And these are the seven schools established by Paul in Asia Minor. Keep going.
One like unto the Son of Man.
One unto like who?
The Son of Man.
One unto like who?
The Son of Man.
That is our goddamn King. Yahushua Mashiach, who the world knows as Jesus Christ. Keep going.
Clothed with a garment down to the foot.
Say it again.
Clothed with a garment down to the foot.
Keep going.
And girt about the paps with the golden girdle.
Say it again.
And girt about the paps with the golden girdle.
Why is he wearing a goddamn dress? We look at these pictures. I don't see no golden girdle around the paps. Keep going.
Verse 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool.
They were what?
White like wool.
They were what?
White like wool.
This Edomite got goddamn blonde hair. He looked like he got a goddamn perm. That's not woolly hair. Yahushua did not have this disgusting flowing hair. His hair was like what?
As white as snow.
Keep going.
And his eyes were a flame of fire.
His eyes were like a flame of fire. All I see is blue eyes here. Keep going.
Verse 15. And his feet like unto fine brass.
Unto what?
Unto fine brass.
Unto what?
Unto fine brass.
What does fine brass look like? Keep going.
As if they burned in the furnace.
As if they burned in the goddamn furnace. Our King, Yahushua Mashiach, who the world knows as Jesus Christ, is a black man with woolly hair and brown skin. No different than the black man you're looking at right now. This is not the Christ of the Bible. But hey, listen, for blacks and Hispanics, this is not any new news. This is not new news at all. We all, but most blacks and Hispanics today know that the Christ depicted in these disgusting pictures is not the Christ of the Bible. Most of us have a clear understanding that this is a case of identity theft. The question is, it's not necessarily whether or not this is a case of identity theft. The only thing left to ask is who's the inside man? This is an inside job, and who's the inside man? Read what you got to get from the top, brother.
God, it's the book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 15. And his feet like unto fine brass.
Right. Keep going.
As if they burned in the furnace.
Damn right. Read it from the top.
And his feet like unto fine brass. As if they burned in the furnace.
Damn right. As if they burned in the furnace. I want to quickly play a short video, man. It's important that we take a look at this.
I think it's locking. I think it's something is loose for the second video. That's why it's not coming up.
Yeah, I was taking a look at that earlier.
Yeah, I think when it was working earlier, but something probably got loose.
Slocky, I'm gonna quickly get this video pulled up. So what are we talking about here? Slocky, 1 second. I gotta log in. What is it? All right, Salakia. Now, Captain Tazariak, give him a hand. Our very own Captain Tazariak, man, is always doing big things, always destroying every single competitor who dares to come into the arena with him. And not only destroy competitors, man, but the captain always does good work in the community. And one thing I want to highlight here is this is not necessarily a battle. You know, when Cap battles, you know, he's in battle mode, but he's not always in battle mode. You know, he can actually have regular discussions. You know, and here he's having a discussion with a brother named Ron Dalton. Now, if y'all don't know who Ron Dalton is, a few months back, there was a lot of controversy surrounding Kyrie Irving because Kyrie Irving posted a link to a documentary that this brother Ron Dalton made called From Hebrews to Negroes. Okay? Now, this brother Ron Dalton is not in the truth. He's not in the ISUPK. He did, however, come to the realization that he was an Israelite, and I guess he felt compelled to make the documentary. That documentary did get a lot of spins, especially when Kyrie Irving reposted it. And as a result of Kyrie Irving reposting it, he got a lot of backlash. They tried to take away his whole goddamn career, if you remember. And it was only until they gave him a goddamn ransom's worth of a list of demands, as well as a collection of Christian organizations coming together to advocate on his behalf, some of which actually marched down at the Barclays Center on his behalf. He was able to, move forward and begin playing ball again after, he went through such humiliating things as completing, sensitivity training, as well as other disgusting things that our oppressor did. And just a sidebar, based on that, it was such a disgusting thing that he had to tuck his tail, because of the pressure put on by our oppressor. But one thing that we should highlight is that the reason why Kyrie Irving had Christian organizations come down and kind of advocate for him and kind of march for him and do things like that is because in the black community, we know that the Christian church is an immediate sign of submission. The Christian church is an immediate sign of submission in the black community. For example, next week or next month, some disgusting oppressor cop will gun down some unarmed brother. And it will be a horrible thing. And it will be recorded. And we'll all see it. And we'll all say how horrible it is. And the mothers and wives and daughters and family of this poor person who was gunned down, they'll eventually have a press conference that the police hold. Every black and Hispanic know that if that family comes out to that press conference and there's a Christian pastor with them, there's only one inevitable conclusion. They're going to say they forgive the cop. We all know that once we see the Christian pastor, because it is a foregone conclusion that the Christian church is there to submit. That's why you brought them along. They are there to submit to our oppressor. They are a sign of relief to our oppressor. When they see you coming with the Christian church, they say, well, goddamn, we'll be able to go home early at night because these niggas ain't going to make too much noise. Let's cut him a check and get them up out of here. When Kyrie Irving shows up to his slave masters, he needs the support of the goddamn Christian church. No different than when you're facing goddamn 25 to life, who you show up to court with. You're a goddamn pastor. It's a sign of submission. When they see you walk into the courtroom with your pastor, well, goddamn, cut that sentence in half. He knows somebody from the Christian church. Christian church is a sign of submission. It disarms people because you know ain't no fight coming from the Christian church. No different than dudes that do burglaries and then in order to case out the block, they won't come late at night to case out the block. You'll get caught. Your big back ass creeping around casing the block, you're going to jail. You're not going to go. You're going to send your pregnant girlfriend or your girlfriend with your newborn baby. Don't nobody suspect a girl with a newborn baby. They can't be causing no mischief until she come back and take every goddamn dime you got in your savings safe. It's certain things that disarms people. The Christian church is here to lay down every goddamn time. So let's get to this real quick, man. Now, Captain Tazariak has interviewed Ron Dalton several times. This was the first interview, which was on Clubhouse. I want y'all to listen real closely to this. Listen real closely. Because what you're going to find is the culprit who is the man on the inside that continuously allows our people to be the victims of identity theft.
And I was at Starbucks, and I was standing in line getting some tea. And this pastor, he was walking down the hallway, and he said, well, his story was that God told him to go stand behind me and talk to me. So he walked in there, he stood behind me, I got my tea, I sat down, was drinking it early in the morning, like 6:30 in the morning. And then he sat on the other side of me with his whatever he had, coffee. And then he said, how you doing? I said, I'm doing great. He said, it's good to see a black brother with a white coat. And I said, thank you. And then he said, it's not a lot of us here at this hospital that I see. And I said, I know. So then he said, then he started asking me questions. He said, I'm a pastor. And he said, I'm going to tell you this. He said, something told me to come stand behind you. And I believe it was God that told me to come stand behind you, because, I was supposed to, go see somebody, because, as a pastor, you usually go do checkups on your people in your church, like a chaplain. You just go to make sure they're okay and make sure you showed your face, and the pastor of the church showed their face to one of the members. But he stood behind me, and then he sat down and he talked to me and told me he was a pastor. And I said, what church? And he told me the church, a pretty large church in Detroit. And so then he said, so we started talking, and I said, my dad's a pastor too. And then I said, oh, he said, oh, okay, good. And I asked him, I said, let me ask you a question. And I said, what color is Jesus? Was he white or black? And then he looked at me and he said, black. And I said, do you teach your church that? He said, no, they can't handle it. And I said, what do you mean they can't handle it? He said, do you know if I told my church that Jesus is black, then basically I'll be telling them that the Jews are black, or the Hebrews are black, or the Israelites are black. And he said that, that's a lot for people to handle, because then they're going to start asking about the Sabbath. They're going to have all these questions. He didn't want to deal with that at that moment. And then he didn't want to lose, be ostracized by the rest of the church, governing bodies at the top. And
let's take a step back. I want to make sure we all heard that. I want to make sure we're all clear on exactly what we just heard. Ron Dalton, the author of Hebrews to Negroes, spoke to a Christian pastor of a large congregation, I believe he said, in Detroit. He asked the pastor, did the pastor know that Christ was black? The pastor said yes. The pastor said yes. He does know that Christ is black. Ronald Dalton then proceeded to ask him, does he teach his congregation that? The pastor said, no, I don't teach my congregation that. The pastor said, if I told my congregation that Christ was black, then I would have to tell him that the disciples and the Israelites were black. And they can't handle that. They'll come and start asking questions about the Sabbath. I mean, let's just get that one more time, just in case anybody missed that, because I want y'all to know that your Christian pastor knows that Christ is black. Your Christian pastor knows that you are the chosen people of God. He goes out of his way to lie to you. Let's listen to it again.
Early in the morning, like 6:30 in the morning. And then he sat on the other side of me with his whatever he had, coffee. And then he said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm doing great." He said, "It's good to see a black brother with a white coat." And I said, "Thank you." And then he said, "It's not a lot of us here at this hospital that I see." And I said, "I know." So then he said, he started asking me questions. He said, "I'm a pastor." And he said, "I'm gonna tell you this." He said, "Something told me to come stand behind you." And I believe it was God that told me to come stand behind you, because, I was supposed to, go see somebody, because, as a pastor, you usually go do checkups on your people in your church, like a chaplain. You just go to make sure they're okay and make sure you showed your face, and the pastor of the church showed their face to one of the members. But he stood behind me, and then he sat down and he talked to me and told me he was a pastor. And I said, "What church?" And he told me the church, a pretty large church in Detroit. And so then he said, so we started talking, and I said, "My dad's a pastor too." And then I said, "Oh," he said, "Oh, okay, good." And I asked him, I said, "Let me ask you a question." And I said, "What color is Jesus? Was he white or black?" And then he looked at me and he said, "Black." And I said, "Do you teach your church that?" He said, "No, they can't handle it." And I said, "What do you mean they can't handle it?" He said, "Do you know if I told my church that Jesus was black, then basically I'd be telling them that the Jews are black, or the Hebrews are black, or the Israelites are black." And he said that, that's a lot for people to handle, because then they're going to start asking about the Sabbath. They're going to have all these questions. He didn't want to deal with that at that moment. And then he didn't want to lose, be ostracized by the rest of the church, governing bodies at the top.
Of course, he doesn't want to be ostracized by the rest of the church. Of course not. Let me hear what you got.
It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 56, and verse 10.
No, let me get Jeremiah 3:15.
Go. It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 3, and verse 15. "And I will give you pastors according to mine heart."
The Most High said he'd give us pastors according to his heart or his mind. He said that the pastors he would give us would be according to his mind. Keep going.
"Which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding."
That's how you're going to know whether or not the pastor is from the mind of the Most High. Because he's going to feed you knowledge and understanding. Knowledge and understanding of what? The Most High God's laws. How is your Christian pastor going to be a man of God when not only is he not going to teach you the laws of the Most High, but he's going to tell you a bold-faced lie and not tell you that Christ was black? This is a horrible thing that we're hearing, man. And these very lies is what allows our oppressor to continuously make us victims of this disgusting identity theft. Your Christian pastor knows the truth according to the Bible. He's heard it from the priests and prophets. He's right here with us in Harlem. He walked past the goddamn camp every goddamn Saturday to go get a goddamn pork chop sandwich from Sylvia's. He should have heard that Christ was black by now. We screaming on the corner every goddamn weekend. Of course, your pastor knows Christ is black. And your pastor's slave master knows that Christ is black. The reason why your pastor's not going to tell you is because, like Ron Dalton said, that preacher told him, he doesn't want to be ostracized from the Christian community. And so he's willing to sacrifice every single brother and sister that walks into that disgusting congregation to do so. It is a horrible thing, man. And this is history class. So we got to go back into the history of this disgusting psychology. We got to go back into the history and understand, how is it possible that we always have a group of people in our communities who are going to go out of their way in order to make sure that we are oppressed. That is who your Christian pastor is. And this is nothing new. This is something that's been going on since we came into this disgusting land. You know? Really quickly, let me get Proverbs 14 and 12. Proverbs 14 and 12. Our people went through an era in this country in which we were physically assaulted, verbally assaulted. You know? I mean, it's so crazy when you think about it. Like, it wasn't even until, you know, the Black Liberation era and the Panthers that black people even realized that being called the N-word was a goddamn insult. You know? Like, that was just a regular practice. During this period of time, we were convinced by our leaders that the best possible thing that we could do for ourselves was to integrate with the very goddamn devil who's looking to destroy us at every corner we turn. They thought this was the best thing to do. They thought that us abandoning our own schools and our own sports stadiums and our own movie theaters and our own commerce industries and our own towns, they thought that that would lead to better prosperity for our people in the future. They were highly mistaken. Read what you got.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 14 and verse 12. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man.
Say it again.
There is a way which seemeth right unto a man.
Civil rights. It seems like the goddamn right thing to do. Why not integrate? They live in nice houses. If we integrate, they'll let us live in a nice house too, right? Read it from the top.
It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 14 and verse 12. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death.
Say it again.
But the end thereof are the ways of death.
Gentrification. Say it again.
But the end thereof are the ways of death.
We only got one goddamn business left in Harlem. Say it again.
But the end thereof are the ways of death.
Every goddamn stamp of heroin they can sell out here. Say it again.
But the end thereof are the ways of death.
The ways of goddamn death. The ways of goddamn death. And that's what our Christian pastors led us into. That's why before Martin Luther King died, he said he feared he led his people into a goddamn burning house. Well, it's still hot, Martin. We still in this goddamn burning house. Our people had excellent ways to become prosperous and be the greatest producers in this country. Why not? We built every goddamn thing. Like, when you really go back and think about it, during slavery time, who was coming up with all the goddamn good ideas? Right. Like, it's the mentality of a slave to want to lessen his work through the use of technology. If I can come up with something, you know, that can help lessen the load, that takes more off of me. But since you have no rights to your own creative processes, our oppressor will then take and get patents on all of our work. The United States is built off the patented ideas of blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. And that's a goddamn fact. When you look up on the screen, you'll read this article here. 1920s black-owned safe bus. We didn't have to ride in the back. see what we got here. During segregation, bus routes in Winston-Salem that brought workers to the city's major employers did not extend to black neighborhoods. This is very important what they just said. Did not extend to black neighborhoods. Blacks and Hispanics need to understand that it is through the necessity of only having each other that we'll ever be able to build anything for each other. Like, if our oppressor came right now and took all his goddamn food stamps and kicked us all out the projects and sent us all somewhere all together, and we was all we had, within 2 goddamn years, we'll have a bigger, better city than any goddamn thing in the United States. We will be forced out of the necessity of only having each other and use that to uplift each other. Ain't that what happened in Egypt? And that's what happened right here with these brothers and sisters. Our oppressor didn't want to extend bus services to our neighborhoods. Let's hear what they did. That often meant long walks to the main routes on trolley lines until Safe Bus, the state's first African-American owned transportation company, was formed in the 1920s to service the East Winston community, and it continued operating till 1972 when it became part of the Winston-Salem Transit Authority. On a sunny day in downtown Winston-Salem, the morning rush at the city's main bus terminal is over. Passengers from short lines, drivers, meandering in and out, partially filled cabins. Let's get into the meat of it. Pause. Many of those years were spent behind the wheel of Safe Bus, the black-owned transportation company that was formed in 1926. Notice this year, 1926. You know, what year was Black Wall Street burnt down? I believe that was 1929.
21.
21?
Wrong.
Okay, 1921. Still within that same decade, you know, black people during this time were very self-sufficient because we had to be. We had amazing towns. We had, you know, Black Wall Street. You know, Barakatah Yahweh Yahweh for the ISUPK and the Commander General Yohana. With the Passover earlier this year, man, we were able to go to the plantation and actually see a Black Wall Street and see a slave plantation. You know? There was cities, and this was in North Carolina. It was cities like this everywhere in the country during this time. Right. Our oppressor would find ways to burn them to the ground until he found the ultimate way to prevent us from building cities and communities better than him. That's called integration. Let's keep going. Getting people to and from work at a time when trolleys ruled the roads extended to white neighborhoods only. So people in East Winston needed to either walk to where the trolleys are, get on the trolley, and go back to those vehicles, or they would have to get a ride to where they would pick up the trolley. For years, those rides were provided by jitneys, small buses, or other passenger cars. These jitneys is what you see out in Queens today with the dollar vans. Are they still $1? I ain't been out there in a while. You know what I'm saying? But back in the day, you know, the Benjamites had the dollar vans popping out in Queens. You know what I'm saying? And these was operated independently outside the hands of our oppressor. You know? And this is very similar to what these brothers are doing, what these brothers and sisters was doing right here. Some 24 independent jitney drivers fiercely competed for nickel fares in vehicles that were often dangerous to operate. Robberies, altercations, and complaints to City Hall officials eventually led to an ultimatum: work together or don't work at all. I'll say it again: work together or don't work at all. That was the ultimatum. Let's hear what happens when black people work together. In April 1926, 21 of them met and agreed to merge services and form the company that would meet the needs of the underserved East Western community. Safe Bus company stocks were sold, $100,000 were raised, fares were set at 5 cents a ride, and the service began 1 month later. Now keep in mind, these brothers and sisters living in North Carolina in the 1920s named their company Safe Bus. Now, you know what I'm saying? Like for the case of the article, they probably not going to tell us the real reason why they named it Safe Bus. But here in the ISUPK during history class, we can only goddamn imagine the horrors that our people would undergo trying to travel from city to city. You know what I'm saying? When black people finally got together and actually got something, they call it Safe Bus. We got to make this safe. Goddamn, every black man who leaves the goddamn main road get lynched. Little girls get snatched. The Klan burning us out of every goddamn house we can build. We need something safe. They needed the Safe Bus. Let's get a little bit more of this. 97-year-old Jamie Morrison was born and raised in Winston-Salem. She remembers those early years. What do we say in Deuteronomy 23:7? Remember the days of old. Well, this sister here is 97 years old. Oh, she remembers. Like many African Americans in the community then. A lot of people back then was growing up. A lot of people back then, as I was growing up, was walking. And then when the weather was bad, like during the wintertime and the cold weather and everything, they relied on buses for transportation. Morrison says Safe Bus was embraced by the community for other reasons as well. The drivers were friendly, wore nice uniforms, and the riders knew one another. Another contributing factor rose to the top. We didn't have to sit on the back of the bus riding Safe Bus because it was owned by blacks. Because it was owned by blacks. You don't got to go to work feeling demoralized. You don't got to go to work feeling less than. You can ride on a Safe Bus with your goddamn brothers and have a good goddamn time getting back and forth to work. I guarantee you that just the mental aspect of it helped so many brothers and sisters during this goddamn time. A time when black families did not know whether or not family members would make it back if they walked out the goddamn house. Now we got a goddamn Safe Bus. Now I don't got to worry about my son getting goddamn lynched on a goddamn telephone pole by the Klan. He's on a Safe Bus. And my uncle's on a Safe Bus. And my neighbor's father's on a Safe Bus. What they're talking about here is the very concept of safety. The very concept of safety. It's us sticking together. Give me Zechariah 2:1. We're going to get some more on this. By the time Rosa Parks helped ignite the civil rights movement, Safe Bus had been in operation for 30 goddamn years. 30 years. Demand for the service was strong. The short-haul routes to densely populate West Winston, roughly 20% of the city, were highly profitable, and Safe Bus was hiring. Safe Bus was hiring. You know why you got to send your goddamn son to college all the way across the side of the country? Because nobody's hiring. Every big man ain't sending his goddamn son to the goddamn college all the way in Washington State. Why? Because they hiring. We sitting up here raking up $80 goddamn $1,000 in student loans. Why? Because ain't nobody hiring. Your father ain't got no business. this time, black people was hired. At this time, black people were hired. This is what happens. Read what you got.
It's the book of Zephaniah, chapter 2 and verse 1. Gather yourselves together.
Say it again.
Gather yourselves together.
Say it again.
Gather yourselves together.
When you gather your goddamn selves together, we'll be hiring. All our kids will have jobs. Your son will come work for my business. My daughter go work for your business. Our money won't leave our community. Right. Say it again.
Gather yourselves together.
When we gather ourselves together, we get Safe Bus. You'll feel safe. Say it again.
Gather yourselves together.
When we gather ourselves together, our people will build the greatest communities, the greatest cities, the greatest goddamn nation on the face of the earth.
That's right.
Safe Bus proves it. Keep going.
Yeah, gather together. Our nation, not desired.
Our oppressor didn't want them using a bus. Why? Say it again.
Yeah, gather together. Our nation, not desired.
They couldn't use the white man's bus. They had to walk. Why they had to walk? Say it again.
Yeah, gather together. Our nation, not desired.
Because we're the goddamn nation not desired. They don't want us on their goddamn bus. They still don't want you on their goddamn bus. Right. That's why we got to gather ourselves together. When we gather ourselves together, we'll all be on the goddamn Safe Bus. When we gather ourselves together, we will all be on the goddamn Safe Bus. Let's keep going. At 21 years old, Priscilla Stevens became the company's first female driver, instructed by none other than Clark Campbell himself. Let's keep going down a little bit further for time's sake, because this is the most important part. This is the most important part of it. I'm gonna read this last paragraph real quick. Let me get this up on the screen. As we've already read, Safe Bus. Oh, Salakia, before I even get that, let me get this part as well, because this part is equally important. In 1968, after Winston-Salem's contracted bus carrier left town, Safe Bus was told by the city to fill that void and provide transportation to all residents. Think about this for a second. Our oppressor had their bus company. They didn't want to let us on their bus company. No sweat. Our people wanted to build Safe Bus. Safe Bus rocked out in our communities for 30 years. Now, our oppressor's bus company goes out of business. This is what happens when you gather yourself together. In any arena, business, finance, combat, being goddamn civil, we're better than them. Every step of the goddamn way. Shut up. Listen, man. The key to these things is very simple. And the key to these things is given to us right out of the Bible and given to us right out of the mouths of the priests and prophets and the ISUPK under Commander General Yohana, man. Now, we just went over how our oppressor's bus company went out of business. What does that mean? That means that our bus company outcompeted theirs. Our bus company outcompeted theirs. How does that happen? Let's really, really think about how that happens for a minute, right? Because it happens the same time every single way. We had to develop this business out of a necessity because we didn't have any other outs. We didn't have any other avenues. And we stayed loyal to ours because it was all we had. Our oppressor, with the price of automobiles dropping and different methods of transportation, he's not loyal to his bus company. Everything in his mind is for commercial purposes. This is the trick that he gave us. He's not loyal to the business because it sustains his community and it helps with jobs and it helps stimulate, economic spending, and it helps just the community overall. That's not his concern. His concern is the fact that he got a brand new goddamn Buick Skylark and he's gonna wash it and drive it and look like every goddamn gangster in New York. And he's not taking the bus no more. He's just not doing it. How many people lose their jobs? Who cares? His mind is on a corporate level. Our people stay true to Safe Bus, and ultimately, because they were able to take the contract for the whole city, as we can read here, this made it the largest African-American owned and operated transportation business in the goddamn country. In the goddamn country. This is what happens when blacks and Hispanics stick together. We are able to build the biggest and the best. And when we do that, our people will stick with us and support us, as we can see here. The only thing different between back then and today is that option of integration. That option of integration. And we're gonna get into that for a minute. Let me just read the last most important part of this article. Salakia. And let me get Proverbs 3 and 31. This is the most important part of this article. Real quick. Safe Bus formed out of the practice of segregation. Give that a hit. The biggest goddamn black-owned transportation company in the country, not just black-owned, but period, was formed out of the practice of segregation and eventually ended due to integration. Let's read that again. Safe Bus formed out of the practice of segregation and eventually ended due to integration. Forced to cover the entire city, including non-productive routes, lack of equipment, competition from rising automobile ownership, and the majority population as not as willing to ride black operated businesses. Think about that for a second. Here you have this black owned business who just got the charter for the whole city. Our oppressor still doesn't want to ride the bus just because it's black owned now. And so in 1972, the city purchased the company's assets, retained its staff, and it became what it remains today, 50 years later, part of the Winston-Salem Transit Authority. Integration is what killed the Safe Bus. Integration is what killed the Safe Bus, man. We got to understand that during this period of time, who was it pushing this process of integration? And why were they pushing this process of integration? Give me what you got.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 3 and verse 31. Envy not thy oppressor.
Say it again.
Envy not thy oppressor.
Say it again.
Envy not thy oppressor.
to white-owned colleges and don't go to historical black colleges and universities. Because they do what?
And choose none of his ways.
From the beginning.
God, it's the book of Proverbs, chapter 3 and verse 31. Envy them not thy oppressor, and choose.
They envy their oppressor. Keep going.
And choose none of thy ways.
And don't choose none of his ways. And don't choose none of his ways. This is what our leaders, these fake Christian pastors, consistently do, man. And it is historically proven time and time again that this is what they do.
That's right.
Let's get it for you right here. There was a time in this country where this country went through a dramatic change from a farming-based country to a more technologically based country. And they refer to this era as the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution was set off by the advent of the cotton gin. The cotton gin was a machine that made it more easier to remove the seeds from cotton, which allowed it to be a huge cash crop in this country, and which led to the slave population growing tremendously. This is what we consistently see throughout history: technology leading to more oppression for blacks and Hispanics. And that's exactly what happened during this cotton gin era. And during the American Revolution, because of these technological advances, what we see is a humongous boom in the world population. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, the world population was stabilized. We begin to see a rapid increase in world population during and after the Industrial Revolution. And so a lot of different things happen as a result of this. Let me get Exodus 1 and 10. One of the more important things that happened is that our oppressor, the very second he began to see the population of the world increase, he began to do calculations like he always do. And these complex calculations led him to believe that if the world population continued to increase at this rate, based on the resources, and keep in mind, he doesn't base it on all the resources, he just simply bases on what remains after what he stole. And based on those calculations, he realized that he got a real big goddamn problem on his hands. The world's going to be overpopulated. There's not going to be enough food. It ain't going to be enough nothing, especially at the rate that he's destroying the goddamn world. Worst of all is that the people who are populating the most are the goddamn people he hates the most. God's chosen people. The Industrial Revolution led into the era of what's referred to as population control. And it's nothing new. Read what you got.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely.
Salakia, read one verse up 9.
God, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 9. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of thy children of Israel.
Of who?
Of Israel.
Of who?
Of Israel.
Keep going.
Are more and mightier than we.
Well, goddamn, we bought them in our country. They taught us how to be goddamn civilized. Joseph interpreted every goddamn dream the Pharaoh could give him. We did well by these goddamn Egyptians. So we multiplied a little bit. So we shined a little bit. You know? We came over here to America. We picked every goddamn bowl of cotton you could grow out of this goddamn ground. We took on every disgusting custom you could give us. You raped every destroyed our brothers. Okay, the Industrial Revolution came around. Maybe we might, have a few babies every now and then. Maybe we might want to have a goddamn family every now and then. Right. We already worked our behinds off. Yeah. Keep going.
Verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely with them.
Well, goddamn, Pharaoh. Now you want to deal wisely with us. We done bust our behinds. We done built up the whole goddamn empire. We had a few extra babies. Now you want to deal wisely with us. Keep going.
Lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us.
Well, goddamn, Pharaoh. You got a few fears about us turning against you. You're going to enslave us for 400 years. God forbid the children of Israel have a goddamn baby or two. This happened during the Industrial Revolution. The very moment a black woman pushed out a baby and a half, our oppressor lost his goddamn mind. Our oppressor is obsessed with population control. And you can see that during our time in Egypt, the Egyptians was obsessed with this as well. This is an ongoing theme. This goes back to what we read about in Zechariah. Gather yourselves together. Our oppressor knows the power of the children of Israel when we've gathered ourselves together. And so Pharaoh said, what? Read it from the top, verse 10.
Come, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely with them.
Come on, everybody. Let us deal wisely with them. Let's come up with something. We got to come up with some plan, some scheme. We got to stop these people from multiplying. What did they come up with? Keep going.
Lest they multiply, and it comes to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us.
Right. Keep going.
And so get them up out of the land.
Damn right. Keep going.
Verse 11. Therefore, they set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens.
Put taskmasters over us to inflict us. And that's exactly what happened here, man. This process of being able to control the populations of blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, as well as the world over, is nothing new, man. And they started out giving our sisters forced sterilizations, and all of these things culminated until, what we know today as Planned Parenthood. We lose the majority of our people in abortion clinics, man. And this is just something quick to showcase how exactly is our oppressors able to come into our neighborhoods and come into our communities and do these things. If you know Margaret Sanger was a proponent of Planned Parenthood, one of the founders of Planned Parenthood. She was deep in the eugenics movement, and this was an entire movement geared towards limiting the population of blacks and Hispanics, and this is one of her quotes. This is one of her direct quotes right here. Let's get this. The quote is real and appears in a December 10th, 1939 letter to a program director advocating employing black physicians and ministers to gain trust of the communities the program was meant to serve. This is a letter about eugenics discussing employing black doctors and black ministers to help lie and convince the people to push their disgusting agenda. Sanger's concerns was to avoid suspicion that the program's objective was to stop black people having babies which white people in charge could create. She wrote, the minister's work is also important, and he should be trained, perhaps by the Federation, as to our ideas and the goal that we hope to reach. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. Like, this is the goddamn devil. Like, she's writing this. They're looking to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who could straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members. Any of their more rebellious members. They're looking to use the Christian pastor to quell any insurrection in the black community. And the Christian pastor has done his job extraordinary from that moment till now. Give me Isaiah 56 and 10. We just read how this disgusting dog, Margaret Sanger, like, let me get her picture so you can just see how horrible she looks. Like, if you're gonna exterminate black people, you know, don't send a witch that looks like this. Like, look at all of them. Take a look at all of them. Like these are the oppressed. This group of dogs right here are the very group of dogs and the very generation of dogs responsible for so many goddamn lynchings. Like, between this group of dogs right here, there has to be at least 250 goddamn fake rape allegations. You know? Like, when I see a group of goddamn, birds like this, it is easily the most disgusting thing I can look at, because I know the spirit behind these horrible women, man. And she just said it out her own mouth. They're looking to exterminate our people. But again, they always have help. Read what you got.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 56 and verse 10. His watchmen are blind.
Your Christian pastor's so goddamn stupid. Like, they could never see somebody as slick and subtle as that goddamn snake Margaret Sanger. Like, your lapdog of a Christian pastor will pant at that disgusting dog's hairy ankles for 2 goddamn quarters to rub together. Your Christian pastor is as blind as a goddamn bat. Keep going.
They are all ignorant.
Just as dumb as they could be. They could never see somebody as slick as Margaret Sanger coming. That goddamn Jesse Jackson was against abortion. He wanted to run for president. He went and got right with Margaret Sanger. Jumped on that bandwagon. Your Christian pastor got so much goddamn Jerry curl juice in his goddamn eyes, the Most High said he's blind. Keep going.
They are all dumb dogs.
They're all dumb. Just as dumb as a goddamn dog who can't even protect his owner. Keep going.
They cannot bark.
They can't say a goddamn word. That's why Margaret Sanger said what she said. Keep going.
Sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber.
They were all goddamn asleep. That's why we're the victims of identity theft. That's why 900 of our children are being aborted every goddamn day. Our ladies are asleep. Keep going.
Verse 11. Yeah, they are greedy dogs.
They all greedy goddamn dogs. Margaret Sanger knew it. Margaret Sanger knew it. Let's see who Margaret Sanger, let's see. Y'all just heard what Margaret Sanger said. Let's see what preacher, what minister they chose to move forward with this agenda. Right here we read the Margaret Sanger Award of 1966. The Margaret Sanger Award is Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood. Highest honor. You know what I'm saying? You can't get the Margaret Sanger Award unless you've somehow killed 2 million goddamn black babies. Like, it is their highest award. You have to be a mass murderer of the 12 tribes of Israel to get this goddamn award. It is presented annually to someone who demonstrates leadership, excellence, and outstanding contributions to the reproductive health rights movement. The award was established 44 years ago in 1966 and was awarded to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was the first person to get that award. The man who pushed us into the civil rights movement. The man who pushed us into a burning goddamn house and admitted it out of his own goddamn mouth. A man who Officer Corral aptly refers to as OG Mike. That's him right there. He sold us out to Planned Parenthood. He's the preacher they was looking for. Our leaders are weak, man. Our leaders are weak. And as a result, we suffer from this disgusting identity theft. Now, before we get up out of here, Salaki, oh, Salaki, go ahead.
Come, it's the verse 11. They are greedy dogs which can never have enough.
They can never have enough. Your Christian pastor's a greedy dog. That's right. Who's sleeping on a job. And as a result of them sleeping on a job, our people have suffered consistently in this country. Now, before we get up out of here, we've gone over the identity theft. We've gone over the greatest identity theft ever in history. This is the identity theft committed against our King, who the world knows as Jesus Christ, Yahweh Shah Mashiach, man. Some of the greatest identity theft. But what a lot of people don't understand is that identity theft, the identity theft of our King is more extensive than you may think. Like I showed you some pictures earlier of these old school Caesar Borgia portrayals of our King. But you'd be surprised to know that the identity theft of our King has moved past Caesar Borgia, you know? And we're actually in the very era of fake Jesuses, okay? For example, let's see what we got here. Oh, fuck it. Yeah, like you got this brother right here who has popped out to our campsite at times. He refers to himself as Yah Jew. Captain Zariak, give him a hand. No, Captain Zariak had to blaze him over 125th Street clean out of those goddamn flip-flops. This is a brother here that's running around claiming that he's Christ. You know? And he's not the only one. Slakia. Slakia, so what's the name of the Amalekite that got running around over there?
The what?
The Amalekite that they got running around over there, they say it's Christ?
Shlomo.
Right. Right.
He's the Mashiach. Yeah, he's the Messiah, but he wasn't born where the Messiah should have been born. In Spain. He was born in Spain, but he's the Messiah. Even though he is what's called Old Testament tradition.
Right.
I almost said Jewish, but basically Anybody who knows the Old Testament will tell you the Messiah has to be born in the city of David, which is Bethlehem.
Right.
This nigga was born in Spain. Yo, that was...
Hold on, let me find this guy. Hold on, that's not him, right? No, that's not him.
Yeah, John. Salaki, I remember years back when Soulja Boy first came out, him and Ice-T had beef. What's it called? Soulja Boy's making fun of him because he Wikipedia and Ice-T. So he's like, yo, you're talking all this about West Side. You're from Jersey. Like, yo. I'm like, yo, you're talking you the Messiah. Nigga, you're from Spain.
Right. You talking about you the Messiah, you from Spain. Oh yeah, man. But yeah, they got some dude over there. Now, if you're from New York City, you'll remember years back that there was these little posters all around the city proclaiming that the Messiah is here on earth. And that was proclaimed by a Jewish rabbi here in New York that said that this individual that I'm about to bring out, they say that he's the Messiah.
Here's his name. Yanuka Rav Shalom. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's it, right. All right, yeah. Let me grab him real quick.
Just type in Yanuka. That's what everybody's calling him.
Yeah, that's what they call him.
Yeah, right. I know his name is Shlomo because that's what. So we're clear that's Solomon, which is very interesting that they chose that for the name of the Messiah.
Right.
Right. God has no originality. What's the last one we gonna call it? Solomon. What's the new one we gonna call it? Right.
Oh yeah, there he is right there. Let me get his mug. Get his mug up there, man, because it's important we know the corpus of it. There he is right there. That's who they say is Christ.
He knows the whole Torah by heart.
Yeah, he's the one who knows the whole Torah by heart. Right now he's in Israel, and our oppressor is saying that's Christ, man. Listen here, man. If Christ looks anything like that, like, forget about it. Like, he looks horrible. He looks like the goddamn Undertaker from WWF. Like, that can't be Christ.
Yes.
He's disgusted, man. You know? So we see that we got Jesus is popping up in Mississippi and Louisiana. We got this Jesus, Jew showing up at our goddamn campsite with some goddamn open-toe flip-flops. You better not ever come out to 125th Street with them goddamn flip-flops on again.
Now he's Jesus. He got to go with some... What you mean? So you said Jesus is coming in Air Forces.
Right.
So forces. Nah.
Right.
Coming to flip-flop. And fruit to you, I am Jesus. Like I was saying this to Osha,
right, man.
Like, here's the thing about Yahweh's return. Like, if I have to tell you, Yahweh has returned, Yahweh has not returned.
Right.
Like, you got to understand the magnet. I did the math and I was going through the scripture. 200 million angels coming from the goddamn sky.
Right.
It's like I don't have to call you to let you know the sun's up.
Right.
When you have that much activity in the sky at once,
right.
There is no, did you know Jesus returned? Nigga, do you see what's going on right now?
Right. But yeah, man, it's 9 o'clock, man. We're going to get up out of here. Real quick, we've seen all the different Jesuses. This last Jesus, like sometimes you'll have a Jesus that he's the same color. You know what I'm saying? He might resemble it, but this is the LGBTQ Jesus right here. They call him sexy Jesus. Like he just got out of the goddamn bathhouse. You know, so this identity theft is more extensive than you ever think it is. You know what I'm saying? You might get a sexy Jesus. You might get a nigga in flip-flops. You know what I'm saying? You might get the goddamn Undertaker and Paul Bearer out there in Israel. At the end of the day, the truth of Christ is in the Bible. Read the book of Revelations 1-13. Once again, I am priest and officer Hoya Allah, the mountain of the Most High, representing right here, ISUPK headquarters, Monday night history class. Clap it up. Now we're going to get up out of here. Please tune in to Commander General Yohana, America on Fire, which should be starting right now. Shalom.